Hey Hylians, and welcome to the Hylian Workshop, a series on my channel where I show you guys how to make different items from the Legend of Zelda series. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make some bombs, which are perfect props for any Link cosplay. So let's get into what you're going to need to make these. You'll need some polystyrene balls, and these can be in any size you want. Some blue paint, some pearl white paint, Fimo clay in grey or silver, Mod Podge. You can also use clear PVA glue for this, some contact cement or hot glue, some rope, and some paintbrushes, X-Acto knife and scissors. First, we're going to mix the paints together. Take your blue paint and put it into a container, and then take your pearl white paint and put it right on top of that. Then take a paintbrush and start mixing it all together. You want to make sure this is completely mixed in and becomes all one colour. The first time I did this, I decided to just use the blue paint by itself, and it was really dark, so I decided this time I would use some pearl white paint in with the blue paint to give it a nice shine, and it made it look way better. They actually look a lot more to the colour of the bombs in the actual Zelda games. Once you've mixed your paint together, it's time to start painting. I recommend finding something to put the ball on while you're painting so it doesn't roll around. I'm using a cookie cutter, but cups or mugs also work. Really anything as long as it sits and fits comfortably on top of it. I was trying to paint as much as I possibly could on these because it did take quite a long time for the paint to dry, and I wanted to do a couple of coats of paint on these before I went on to further steps. Before painting, you can also start off by putting a layer of Mod Podge on the polystyrene ball. This can fill in some of those gaps you might have and gives you a nice smooth surface to paint on. There's no difference between one way or the other, so it's really personal preference if you want to add in this extra step or not. And if you don't have Mod Podge available, you can simply use PVA or craft glue. Once the Mod Podge is completely dried, it's then time to paint, and you can just do this as you usually would. Now, I went ahead and painted the rest of this off camera as it was taking quite a long time, but when your paint is completely dried, it's time to work on the top. There was a circular indent on the top of the ball I was using, so I used this as a guideline for how big I wanted the top to be. So to make the top, you're going to want to use your Fimo clay. I recommend rolling it around for a couple of minutes before you actually start trying to mould it properly, as this will make it a lot softer and easier to work with. To make the top, first roll the clay into a basic cylinder shape. Once you have the basic shape, you can then move it over to the ball and start working on its final look. You will want to first focus on the sides and making sure the clay is moulded to the curve of the ball. So right now I'm cutting out some of the clay what got paint on it. When working with the clay, try and make sure your hands are free of paint so you can avoid this. Still, you could get some paint on the clay from parts of the ball which may not be completely dried. It isn't too hard to remove, it just means you have to spend a little bit more time smoothing those areas back out. When moulding the clay, try and keep the bottom fairly curved so it fits the ball, and try and keep the sides fairly straight. Once you're happy with the shape, use something like the end of a pencil, or for me, I'm using the end of my X-Acto knife to put a hole in the top, and this is where the string will go. Make some final adjustments, remembering to keep the bottom fairly curved and don't squish the hole at the top too much. Before baking the clay, you want to make sure that the rope you are using fits in the hole that you made. Do one last check that the top fits nicely on top of the ball, and then it's time to bake. When baking your clay, remember to follow the baking instructions on the packet of clay. Once it's finished cooking, the top should be perfectly solid, and now it is time to put everything together. If you're using a contact cement, put a little bit of the glue on both the ball and the top and wait for them to go tacky before sticking them together. I do recommend using hot glue over contact cement as it's a little bit easier to work with, but I just didn't have any of that when I was making these. You could also try using super glue, though I haven't tested it out yet, so you'd have to see how that works and reacts to the polystyrene yourself. Once the top is glued on, it's time to cut the rope. I recommend putting the rope into the bomb first before cutting it, this way you can cut it to the exact length that you want it. Once you've cut it to size, take some glue and glue them together. When putting the rope in, twist it the way that the rope is naturally twisted so it doesn't come all undone while sticking them together. To make sure that the rope doesn't come unravelled, put a little bit of glue at the end of it. This can be just normal craft or PVA glue. Once that's all done, the final step is to cover the ball in Mod Podge. Again, PVA glue or craft glue should also work for this. The Mod Podge will stop the paint from rubbing off as easily, and it also will make it a little bit more sturdy and a little bit more hard. It will also make the bomb a little shiny, which fits well with how the bombs look in many Zelda games. I was wanting to try and cover the bomb with as much of the Mod Podge as I could in one go so it could all dry at around about the same time. I only did one layer of Mod Podge on this, but if you want to do more, it should be perfectly fine. Now, as I was spending so much time waiting for things to dry with this project, I decided to try and finish off something that I'd had in the works on a shelf for a very long time now, and that's my bomb flower. The main part of the bomb flower was made the exact same way as you saw it in this video, and the leaves were made of foam. I decided to film myself putting this all together so you could see that there is more things you can do with this bomb design. You can put patterns on them, or you can turn them into bomb flowers. There's a lot of different ideas and different types of bombs in the Zelda series that you can try and make. And so that is how you can make yourself some really nice looking bombs for your Link costume. These are really nice little props to go around and have photos with, and they are also really cheap to make. They just take a little bit of time and patience while waiting for things to dry. If you haven't seen the last video in this series where I showed you how to make potions, I'll leave a link to that somewhere for you to go check out. If you like this video, please give it a like, and why not tell me in the comments below what you thought of this video and maybe some ideas for other things you would like to see me make in this series. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more Zelda content. I'm also trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so that would also really help me out. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!